Joining us now to expand on the events on Capitol Hill is Representative Mark Green, the congressman serving Tennessee's 7th District. So, Congressman, I have to start with the border crisis. I mean, we know that it's the most immediate concern for a lot of people. The Biden administration refuses to call it a crisis. And on top of that, they're promoting policies such as bringing down some of the border structures that we have there. I just want to get your response to what's going on there.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show first, but it's absolutely absurd what the Biden administration is doing on the border, and everything they seem to be doing, undoing President Trump's policies with Mexico to have people wait in Mexico before they, come into the United States. Central America, the agreements that he made with the Northern Triangle countries, and now not only stopping construction, which, by the way, interrupts a bunch of contracts that we have that the United States government has with private industry, he's going to actually tear down the wall. That's what he's talking about doing now. It's only going to incentivize a greater flood of people from Central America to come to the United States. I mean, we're already at epic levels. It's a tragedy. It's gone beyond crisis. It's a tragedy.
And, the response has been so, I'll just say it, bad, that I have to ask the question, is it part of its strategy? Because, for example, we're now seeing House Democrats pushing through an amnesty bill to really get people the right to vote, essentially, is what they're doing. And on top of that, they're trying to reform the elections themselves through H.R. 1, not to mention, just the horrible response that we've seen and the fact that the Biden administration refuses to even call it a crisis. Is this all part of a broader strategy?
Absolutely. It's a part of a grand strategy to put themselves in power in Washington, D.C., controlling every decision that's made in America by the Democrat Party. Whether it's H.R. 1, which, again, concentrates power in Washington, D.C., but this amnesty bill, it's them trading entry into the United States, incentivizing people to come into the United States for a vote. That's all they're doing.
And building on that, too, people still remember how, for example, the coronavirus pandemic was used in order to justify, changing up the voting reforms. And now here we are. We're still coming out of the pandemic, but by no means are we over it. But they are pushing the voting reforms as well. They're now looking ahead to maybe budget defense cuts in addition to a massive infrastructure plan. Do you have any idea, really, of what is next on their agenda when it comes to, after this coronavirus relief bill, H.R. 1, what comes next?
Yeah, of course. Last year they were talking about defund the police. Well, now it's defund the Pentagon, as much as a 10% cut. I've talked to senior leaders in the United States military, and they are scared to death. They know our near-peer competitors like Russia and China are advancing their militaries at exponential rates. And here we are in the midst of an increase in strength and a buildup that was initiated by President Trump. They're talking about cutting that off, in fact, cutting back. Even if we hold flatline in last year's expenditures, it's actually a loss or a cut in money to the DOD because of inflation. But a 10% cut will devastate our military and devastate our ability to really project power globally.
And, that really concerns me when it comes to China in particular, because China is someone who is ramping up their military pressure. There's someone who is, they're thinking hundreds of years ahead, unlike us where we have to deal with 2 years at a time, depending on who has power. China's already looking to expanding into Africa, the South China Sea. We're already at an inherent disadvantage, but I think that part of that disadvantage is that some lawmakers and the president himself seem unwilling to take on China. We even hear Russian President Vladimir Putin today saying that he wants to have a live debate with President Biden after President Biden called him a killer. And I think that really shows you what world leaders think of President Biden. Do you think that he's just not the man to take on these foreign conflicts?
Listen, I am not. My criticisms of President Biden are exactly this. Trump at least led through these difficult relationships with relationship. He met with Kim Jong-un. He developed relationships with these people, much like Reagan did with Gorbachev. And this guy is punching him in the face. Calling Putin a killer, that's ridiculous. That's not how you lead internationally. I'm more of a Kissinger guy. I believe in that sort of trilateral diplomacy. I think that's what we need to be doing, not calling presidents of foreign countries, killers.
And I think that really where you pick apart where he decides to do that is also interesting to me because, for example, to your point, the Trump administration, especially when it came to the Middle East, the strategy seemed to be, let's create allies among people that we can work with. Let's try to get these Abraham Accords so Israel can be working with people who in the past were adversaries and build us up through that. Whereas the Biden administration seems to be the one place they do want to talk directly seems to be Iran and what's going on there. Someone who I think we can all say is by no means an ally of the United States. Does that just show that the priorities are off when it comes to foreign policy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2 days after an American contractor is killed by a rocket from an Iranian-backed militia, our president says he wants to talk to the Iranians and perhaps find a way to get back into the JCPOA, the Iran deal. And that is absurd. It's an insult to the Americans who are serving in the Middle East right now, and it's certainly an insult to America as a country that should be leading and pushing back from the terrorists that are in control in Iran.
And just to really put an emphasis on that shift, I mean, around that time, Press Secretary Psaki refused to even call Israel an ally of the United States. So I think that if there's one issue that really shows the transformation when it comes to the Middle East, this is what's happening right now. But Representative Mark Green, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.